Hello and welcome back to Mother Tongue, your eyes, ears and finger on the pulse for all parents around the world. Let's get going, shall we?
We're back, and today we're talking all about education, which I feel like is still quite a new area for me, even here in Dubai, because our kids have only just started school. But I feel like MJ's been there for a while now, right?
Yeah, so MJ has been at school. Yeah, so he's now in year 1. Is that the oldest of all of our kids?
Yeah, he is the oldest of all of our kids. So Mika, is she FS1 or FS2?
I have no idea what that means. And I don't know how I've got to this stage of life and still don't know, because both of my kids have been through those. But I still cannot work it out. But I'm still in the English mindset of reception. So Mika's the year before reception. So what's that?
I don't know the answer to that question. What do they have in Saudi then? How does it work in terms of like the schooling system? Do you have FS1 and FS2 and then you go into year 1? Or is it more like the British system where you have like kindergarten and reception and...
No.
No.
So it's so funny, isn't it? Because it's so different everywhere. So even when you say kindergarten, that to me is American rather than British. Like in England, we had primary school, middle school and secondary school, right?
Yeah. Well, no, see, my English education, I don't think I ever really did middle school. I went to a primary school and then I went to boarding school. And so there was no middle bit, if that makes sense. I went straight to boarding school at 11 and then stayed till 18. So
you have better understanding of like the way the language is here, because obviously something about the Middle East, and obviously everyone in Dubai will already know this, but across the board it's effectively private education, isn't it? What you'd get in England is what you get here. Yeah. So for me, I didn't go to boarding school or private school in England. So it's been a learning curve, learning the way it is in private school. Incredible, by the way. MJ starts, so there's like preschool, which is effectively nursery.
Yeah.
So Mika's still in that. So Mika's in nursery. And my children go to the most gorgeous little, MJ went there as well, nursery called Kinderland. And honestly, it's just the best. So both my kids went there. Loved it, would have kept them there for life if I could have, but sadly, no, they needed to start proper school. So then my son has gone to Aldenham, which is a British private school that's set up here. So we've got a few British schools. So originally there was only BISR, which is the British International School.
Yeah.
And that really had the monopoly because it was the only British school really here.
Yeah.
Then we now have a lot more schools coming over. So we have Aldenham, which is where my son goes. We have Downhouse, which is a really fantastic all-girls school. We have, who else do we have British? Is King's College, Reigate. Yeah, so we've got a lot. I don't know if we've got any that mirror Dubai schools, because you've got GEMS.
We've got GEMS. We've got like the big ones here at the moment are King's, which is the same, I'm guessing. GEMS has lots of different schools across Dubai. Then the kind of big English-speaking ones would be NAS, Nord Anglia, RGS, then oh my god,
letters.
I know, Victory Heights, Sapphire, and then oh my god, what's it called? I've had a total mind blank. Repton, that's it. But then there's been big.
So are they British franchises?
Yes, I mean GEMS isn't, but the rest of them I think are. Actually, no, I don't think Sapphire is either. RGS definitely is. Repton is, and then there's also confirmation that Harrow, which is obviously a very big British public like private school, is coming both to Saudi and also to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So that will be quite interesting. But what I wanted to ask you, so Mika is 3, correct?
She's 4. Yeah, just turned.
MJ's just turned 6?
Yeah.
So MJ's school, did Aldenham start before this year? Or was this the first year he could go to big school?
No, so he went last year. So he started in reception with the most incredible teacher called Mrs. Walsh. She is so fabulous. She's Irish And she was really one of the big selling points for us at Oldham, to be honest. So when I looked around all the schools, I found that they're all incredible. I'm not going to lie, like the ones we saw were all amazing, but they were huge. Like
yes.
Going from teeny tiny little preschools to college, I was like, do you know what? This just feels too big for me. Like I went to a really small little like countryside primary school.
Yeah.
So suddenly to be walking around these huge campuses, I just felt so overwhelmed. So the thing we loved about Oldham is Oldham only was primary school.
Yes.
And what they're doing now is they're adding a year every year. So every year they're starting to go into secondary school, and they are actually opening another campus. So it felt a lot smaller, a lot more boutique, which is really what I was after. And then when I saw Mrs. Welsh, and she's just the loveliest, like I say, Irish, very like how I envisage a primary school teacher, I was like, right, this is the one for us. So yeah, so he's there, and then Mika will start next year, and she'll go into reception.
Okay, so in big school in Saudi starts at reception and then goes up to 18 years old, whatever year that is.
College, which is the bit that I think terrified me, because you saw like the big teenagers with their backpacks going in with like the little tiddly ones, and I thought, oh God, I'm just not ready to envisage my son being that big.
No, and also this is something that's so Rafa is at school at a primary school in Dubai, and primary schools that are only primary schools are quite hard to come across here, which obviously in the UK it's very much the norm. As you mentioned, you go to a primary school, then to a middle, then a secondary. So Rafa he's at one of the very few primary schools that are here, but most of my friends have sent their kids to these schools that have kids that start age 3 and 4 and then run up to 18. And I'm the same as you. It's like crazy. But then there's this whole,
really overwhelming.
Yeah, but there is this whole competitive nature as well of, if you don't get your spot and you don't get in early, are you ever going to get in? And it's genuinely, I mean, Rafa's 4, but it's genuinely a fear that I'm like, we're going to get to 13 and is he going to get into a secondary? Who knows?
Yeah, he will. Do you know the thing as well is something to know about me across this whole series is I am the least competitive person you will ever meet in your life. So I have never really thought of it like that. But my main priority, and maybe this is wrong, but it was just that he was happy. I was so scared of him going into a big arena that I just felt like, do you know what, maybe education wise, maybe the bigger ones are better. But for me at this stage of life, I just wanted him to go somewhere that he felt comfortable, that just didn't feel too, going from a tiny little nursery where the head mistress knows every kid to this kind of massive what felt. And do you know the other thing I find really interesting? This is more for the Brits that are looking to move out. What I really found a shock as well is these 3 or 4-year-olds are going in uniform to nursery in some of these cases. And again, I wasn't in any mood to rush MJ into a suit. He may have his whole life to wear a suit. So for me, I was like, do you know what? I just want him to play. I want him to just go somewhere he feels happy to just be a kid. Yeah. And then now he's in his uniform, but it just felt like we were speeding things up.
Unnecessarily.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And then
get it all out.
God,
bless you.
Oh my God. And so from a payment perspective, are all schools paid? Are all schools private schools? Is there any kind of public schools?
Yeah, so there is government schools. Yeah, there is government schools, but I don't know the rules with expats going to government schools, but I assume they don't, because I don't know anyone that's in a government school. And so these expat schools, so for example, with Down House is a huge quota of Saudis there. Actually, not that many expats.
Really?
Oldham is a really, really diverse mix of different cultures and nationalities. It really depends. And then obviously British school is predominantly British.
Yeah.
So it's, for us, we wanted, again, MJ to go to a school that felt a bit more diverse, perhaps because of, you know, being here and wanting him to embrace the culture.
Of course.
So there are, there's multiple options. And then with regards to payment, obviously all the private schools are paid, but a lot of the companies do have packages whereby they will support you.
Yes.
So we don't get all of our schooling covered, we get a percentage covered, and it didn't start until the kids were free. So that's something to look into with your company, because all of them are different. Some get huge amounts, some get it all paid, some get very minimal, and some get it from certain ages, some get it from when they're born. So really, that's something to look into with your company when you come over.
And in terms of payments, I mean, I know being here in Dubai, fees can vary wildly. And you know, you're kind of talking, so for when they start at, you know, 4, it can go from anything from like 30,000, maybe a little bit less, 30,000 dirhams per year, up to like 80,000 dirhams, 90,000 dirhams a year for a 3 to 4 year old. Are the prices quite similar in Saudi? Are we talking more or less?
I'd say the same.
Okay.
I'd say the same from my experience. So yeah, maybe for me, I actually, you know, every episode we do, I'm like, oh, so this is a bit of a blue job. I don't really know the numbers, but I know for my son, he's about 50. So that's year one, 50,000 SAR for the year, which is the same as dirhams.
Yeah.
So it's probably about the same. But every year it obviously goes up, which is the killer when you're, for example, our quota of support stays the same every year. It doesn't go up every year. So again, that's just something to navigate when you're moving here. But for us, as long as he's, like I say, happy, and we send him off every day and he's so content going there.
Yeah.
That's really, the main priority for us. So yeah, we do pay for a percentage of it, but it's worth it.
And then in terms of like the schooling systems that they offer there, so obviously you mentioned the MJ's at a British school, and I'm guessing they go on to do GCSEs, then A levels. Are there any other international schooling systems like IB, the American education system, that are available in Saudi?
Yeah, so I learned the other day that it's called the IGCSEs. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
So here it's the international GCSEs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I learned that when I went to Downhouse. But yes, so we do have IB systems. I don't know which schools have it. I think Downhouse do. And then BISR, I think, might do as well. But again, all of the websites for all of the schools have all the different education systems. But we follow at Oldham a British curriculum. Even my daughter's teeny tiny nursery has a British module, curriculum. Yeah, exactly. So that's great. And, you know, they're doing their reading, their writing. They also have Islamic studies, but you can opt out of that. So for us, we did opt out of that only because it's not as we would have had back in the day, where it's RE, where it's educational on all religious studies. It's very much a support for being Muslim.
Yeah.
And obviously our children aren't Muslim, so we opt out of that. And again, it's just very, I would say very predominantly British. There are American schools, there's a Spanish school, there's a French school, there's different international schools.
Yeah.
So you can choose your pick when you get here. There's also like international curriculum. So there's like a global school on our compound that they don't seem to follow one set. They kind of have a mixed. Yeah. So I would say the best thing to do is come here and tour around all the schools and then decide. With regards to like waiting lists, really you don't have to worry here yet. It's not like Dubai with that respect.
That's good.
There's space for people. So the only one that's a bit tricky to get into is BISR. But they're opening a new campus, which is the British school. So that's now going to accommodate for a lot more people. So it's probably less of a concern.
And in terms of like the application registration process, is that quite cumbersome? Because I remember when we had to do it for our kids, you had to have certain vaccinations that had been done. They had to, like we had to submit quite a few documents to kind of prove that we were who we were. Like it's not a straightforward tick a few boxes and you're done.
No, definitely not. But I feel like it's like that in England as well, isn't it? Like the
I
form.
don't know, because obviously we've
Yeah,
never really applied for schools in England, so I don't actually have a clue how
yeah.
that system works.
I actually think it's more intense in England because, especially if you're going to a public school, because you've got that catchment area piece.
Yeah.
And I've known a lot of friends to be completely terrified waiting for their school to come in, whereas we don't have that here. We
No.
just kind of apply and then we get in as per the school that we're paying for. So, yeah, but there is a lot of forms to fill in. But again, that's a process that's done all online because obviously so many people are coming from international
Yeah.
places. And also then you have an assessment when you get here. So I think that's really important to know because there is not necessarily the best support here for ADHD, any kind of how can you say that?
Learning difficulties.
Yeah, so let me say that again. Sorry, Courtney. So here they have an assessment piece, which I think is really fantastic because I think they're the first to admit they perhaps don't have the best, some of the schools have the best elements in place for ADHD, learning difficulties. So they'll do an assessment in advance to assess actually, is this 100% the right school for your child, which I think is so great. So you have an assessment at the initial introduction to the school, and then once they're in, they're in. I would just say also one of the big things about schooling here is to really consider traffic because, as you know from visiting me, it is wild getting from A to B here. A lot of the compounds have school buses, which is brilliant. So, for example, I have a school bus for MJ. So the nanny can go with MJ to school when my husband's traveling, if I can't drive him, etc. It just helps with logistics and so much. So that's another thing to really, really consider when you're looking to move here. How to get there? What does that look like? What's the morning commute like? What's the afternoon like? And again, just for the kids' happiness, because no kid wants to be on a bus for an hour.
No, exactly. Definitely not. And that comes on to my next question about timings. So I know, again, the timings here, for example, are very different to how they are in the UK, and I'm guessing it's quite similar with you. What is your standard school timings? And again, your week runs Sunday through Thursday, correct?
Yes, it does. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Pick it up.
It's driving me mad. Thank you.
So we are Sunday to Thursday, which I wonder if that will change. I don't know because you guys obviously changed not that long ago.
And literally they gave everyone 2 weeks notice. It was literally right middle of December, as of the 1st of January, everything's changing, and everyone was like, what?
I
But
know.
now I don't remember the old weekend. It's so weird how everything just, because they say let's do it and they get it done, it's weird. Everything, obviously everything was fine, everything ran super seamlessly. It was no big deal. But yeah,
and
when
honestly,
Monday, Friday,
better in some ways because sometimes obviously when we're working with international clients it can be a bit tricky, but so we're Sunday to Thursday, so the kids start at 7:45 or 8 for Mika, MJ 7:45, and then MJ finishes between 2:45, or if he has CCAs he finishes at 4, so it's a long day for him, 7:45 till 4, and he's obviously only 6. So it's interesting, actually. I on Saudi Life Unpacked, which we've mentioned before, we interviewed a sleep expert here, and her name is Kate. She's from a company called Nooms, and she talks about how tricky it is for the kids here actually starting that early. And I'd never really thought about it, but if you think about the Saudi culture, a lot of the kids can be up till 9, 10 o'clock at night just by nature, and then they're having to get up at 6 a.m. to be ready to leave, because for example our school bus leaves at 6:50. Imagine.
wow.
Yeah, so it's okay because my kids are in bed by 7, but if they're not, that's quite tricky and I know a lot of friends that have come over from England that struggle with the transition because their kids were leaving the house at 8:15 and all of a sudden they're leaving at 6:50. That's quite a shock, isn't it? So again, something to consider when moving over here. Like, what time do your kids start?
It's very, very similar to you. So Rafa he goes between 7:40 and 8:10. That's like the window. And Ida goes before 8:30 normally. Depending on who's doing drop off or pick up between me and my husband. He's always the last person, I'm always the first, so
So that's so funny, because MJ said to me the other week, he said, why is it when you drop me we're always on the naughty list? Because I always am late and always have to go and sign at the reception. He was like, Daddy never puts me on the naughty list.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And then it said reason, and he said, right, just because you're mummy.
Oh, bless him. Bless him.
Great. Okay. I'm glad he's acknowledging, but I cannot get the kids out on time. I don't know how people do it.
No, it is a military operation, to be fair. I mean, my kids Rafa's normally up at, God, he wakes up at 6:30 every day, and my daughter, she doesn't get up till 7. But yeah, it's the rigmarole around. Get your clothes on, get the shoes on, get some water in you, get in the car. Everything just is like, ugh. But I also weirdly love it in the way that they're then at school and I can actually start my day from like 8 if I want to.
Super early. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I feel like I have a whole morning to do everything that I need to do before they get picked up. So ours get picked up a little bit earlier. We normally get ours at 2:30 or 3. Which is still a really, really long day, because I think schools in the UK are 9 till 4, right?
Yeah.
But then we have typically longer school holidays. So again, I don't know whether it's the same for you guys, but we normally get 3 weeks at Christmas, a week for every half term, 4 weeks at Easter, and then, God, a good like 7 weeks in the summer. Is that quite similar to you?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it's funny, isn't it? Because when I see on Instagram, the survivals for the school holidays in the summer with English accounts, I'm like, you have no idea what we are up against. Yeah. Honestly months. It's months. And I love it because it means I can go and spend all that time with my family, and we always travel back to England, and, we'll have a really, really long summer. But it's quite a long time to be without their dad, because he doesn't have all that annual leave. So he'll be here and we're all away. And it's a really long time, but it's part of the expat gig, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And what about holidays? I mean, we obviously have Eid and Ramadan and various other things that I'm guessing you also celebrate. Eid is totally off. What about Ramadan? What kind of hours do the kids work during Ramadan?
They are short. Yeah, I was going to work, poor babies.
Go to school.
So they, so they're shorter hours in Ramadan. But to be honest, I tend to leave for Ramadan. And this is another thing that I'm starting to have to learn and get used to, is historically I've been quite flexible with having the kids in school, because obviously they've been so little and there was nothing to say we could not travel for Ramadan or travel for longer. Whereas now MJ's in year 1, I am going to get a slapped wrist if I pull him out. So I am having to obviously have him in school the whole year when he needs to be at school, which I totally respect. But it's also like, but Ramadan is so, it's so tricky here, because we talked about this in the previous episode. We're still in the no water and food in the hours of sunlight, everything's closed. So for the kids, a soft play opening at 7 p.m, it's just a different. So I always would historically leave for Ramadan, and it's quite close to the time we'd get off for Easter anyway. So I'd just go. Whereas this year I'll be here. So yeah, it's definitely different. But we also get like National Day long weekend, Founding Day long weekend. Honestly, all these long weekends, which are great, because you can tag on a trip to Dubai or, like some short haul flight. So yeah, we do get a lot of holiday, which I love. But also going back to the timing, so like it's so hot here that actually those hours are perfect, because by the time they get back, at the moment the weather's starting to cool down and it's lovely. Whereas before you wouldn't really know what to do with them, because it was so hot if they came back any earlier. So now that time of the year I try and keep MJ there till 4, just so that he's not stuck in the house.
No, I totally agree. And then what about camps? So in the school holidays, is kind of like summer camp and winter camps a thing in Saudi? So if people are working full time, there are camps available within the schools?
So we have summer camp, we have winter camp. All of the schools have them, to be honest.
Right.
Because obviously there's a lot of working parents, both parents work and they can't travel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely have those here. And obviously people pay for them outside of their paying for the schooling anyway.
Yeah.
So that's just something to consider, that, you know, when you're adding up how much it's going to cost for schooling, that there'll be that on top.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, the little school, that's 1,000 SAR a week. So it's not loads, but it adds up if you're doing a whole summer, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then my final question, you've mentioned some great private schools, and obviously we'll mention those all in the show notes. But what about nurseries? Are there any nurseries that really stand out for you that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so Kinderland definitely, which is Mika's one. The owner is just gorgeous and lovely. There's also one called Smart Kids, which is across a fair few compounds. So every compound pretty much has a nursery within it.
Yeah.
And it's your choice whether you use the one in your compound that you can easily walk to, or if, for example, like me, I'll drive 7 minutes just to go to the one that I absolutely adore. But even in the financial district, which is like your DIFC, there's a new one that's just launching there. There's so many, but I'd say Smart Kids and Kinderland are the two that spring to mind. And then Oldham does have a nursery.
Okay.
But again, like I say, it's the little kids going in uniforms vibe. So
Yeah.
it's a bit more, schooly.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, we'll put, like you say, we'll put them in the show notes if any more spring to mind. But they're the two that I would say are the best that I know of.
Fabulous, Frankie. And if anyone wants to, sorry, let me start that again. Fabulous, Frankie. And if anyone wants to reach out and ask you any more questions, where can they find you?
I am at Frankie with an IE Hilton X.
Perfect, doll. We will see you next week.
Thank you.